Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Hope all is well. We are now going to be going live again with Michele Ibbs of I'm Your PA. We had some technical issues earlier and couldn't get Michelle on board, but now it should be fine. So here we go. View.
Hi,
Michelle,
we did it.
how are you?
I'm good. How are
Good,
you?
good. It's good to have you. I mean, yeah, we had the IG Live only works on the phone.
Right. It does actually work on a Mac, but there's a whole stream of things as to what I need to do.
In
But
your
we're
own
here
time,
now.
in your own time, when you're ready, you can use that. But thank you so much for coming on. We're starting 15 minutes after schedule, but it's okay. So thank you so much for taking your time out. I know you're busy. You're a busy nurse, a virtual assistant. You've got your hands into a lot of things, so it's a pleasure to have you on here speaking about what you do because we are getting into a whole new era where we are dealing with the virus, lockdown, social distancing, and a lot of protesting that's going on, but that's on the other side. Uh, so, all of this put into effect, I think, is going to change the way the businesses are run across the world, not just for employees, but especially for rich business owners, CEOs, entrepreneurs who have personal assistants with them the whole time. And they're going to be choosing someone like yourself who is going to look after assisting them virtually.
Mm-hmm.
Virtual assistance has been in the market for a very long time. I know that the first time I got pitched virtual assistants was, I think, in 2011 when I started my company.
Mm-hmm.
But at that point, I didn't want a virtual assistant. But that's a whole new thing now that I want to discuss as well. And I want to hear more from yourself on what you do, how you do it, and then we can get the conversation going. So, Michelle, if you can introduce yourself as to who you are and what you do, and then we can go ahead.
Yeah. It's interesting you say 2011. I actually started the business up in 2007.
Woohoo.
So it was, I've been running my own business with my husband, who became my ex-husband.
Okay.
So therefore, I needed to do something else. I've done medical sales and been a nurse and everything. And somebody said, I said, I don't know what to do. And somebody said, have you ever thought of being a virtual assistant? And I said, no. What do they do? So I did the only sensible thing that you can do when you've just lost £100,000 a year job and have £500,000 on mortgage. I packed a bag full of paperwork on what a virtual assistant was, and I went and lay on a beach in Antigua for 10 days. And I read up about it, and from there, I set the business up. Realised one slight problem: I don't type, and that seemed to be quite crucial. So it was like, oops, I may have made a mistake here.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I found was a lot of businesses don't know how to answer their phones. So I specialised in that area.
Of course.
It's over the years, I mean, I don't know how many clients we've taken on over the years, but we tend to run now between 150 and 160 clients
Wow.
at a time.
And that's around the world. As you
What
mentioned,
we
you have businesses that you're looking after in India, in Canada, in the UK,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's a whole variety of places that you offer your services to. Michelle,
absolutely.
before we carry on as to what you're doing with this virtual assistance, I want to take you a bit back into the nursing days, and wanted to ask you that did you always think that you wanted to get into the medical field? Did you always want to become a nurse when you were young? school going, college going, university. I mean, university, obviously, you got to decide what you're going to do. But when you were in school and college, did you always think that you wanted to become a nurse and help people on that front?
From the age of 4.
Wow.
It actually started, I do believe it started my very first day at school. You know, when parents take the kids to school and there's tears everywhere. And my mother was determined I wasn't going to cry. So she picked out one little girl in the playground who was sobbing, and she said, "Oh, look at her, she's crying. Go and look after her." And that was it.
And
And I
and
said,
that and
"Okay,
that and
fine."
that sort of kicked you into being,
I've got to look after people.
of course.
And to be honest, even with the virtual PA job, I'm constantly looking after people.
Of course you are.
So I went.
And that's more than looking after people. That's looking after their livelihoods.
Yeah, but it's still looking after.
Of
It's
course.
still
I mean,
us.
it's looking after people. There's one thing about looking after people physically, and
Yeah,
then there's one thing looking after people mentally in terms of looking after their businesses, answering their phone calls, all that kind of stuff, you know. So there's a lot of things that are involved. Um, so I'm sure you did your did your qualifications in
yeah,
nursing from university and everything, and then you
yeah.
qualified to become a nurse. How long did you span that career of being a nurse?
I was a nurse through until 2000, and I in 2000 I hadn't done enough hours to requalify. And at that stage I'd moved from the medical, doing medical sales and nursing. Actually went to work with my ex-husband in shop blasting.
Can I
So
just ask you, you mentioned that you did not qualify for the hours that you put in for the following year. What is that?
with nursing, every 3 years you have to do what they call revalidate.
Okay, got you.
And if you haven't done 450 hours in the previous 3 years, as along with certain training qualifications that you need to have done, and all your reflective practice, if you can't submit that, you can't requalify. You can't
So,
revalidate.
so those 450 hours are like mandatory for you
Yes.
to re-qualify for another 3 years.
Yes. So,
Wow. And
um,
every nurse and midwife and doctor has
yeah,
to go through that?
certainly every nurse and midwife. And if you're dual qualified, you've got to do four. You've got to do double the amount of hours.
Dual qualified meaning you're a nurse and a midwife.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So you've got to do 900 hours
Yeah.
to re-qualify for, wow,
Yeah.
wow,
To
wow.
revalidate. So I didn't do anything. And then in 2014, I was talking to a friend of mine who's a nurse, and she actually said to me, she said, "Why? Just why don't you redo it?" And I calculated it probably cost me best part of £5,000 to revalidate, to go back and do return to practice, because I had to pay the £1,000 to do the course, but I had to take time out of the business to do it,
Yep,
because
yep.
you have to do 150 hours unpaid to be able to revalidate.
Wow.
So I went in, and I had to get my own placement. And I said to them, I said, right, you've got me for a period of 6 weeks. And
Yep.
I need to put that 150 hours into that 6 weeks.
Of course.
Because,
Michelle, just before we carry on, we've got Raj Kiran Patel who's just tuned in, and he actually saw the mention of you on my live story yesterday, and he actually said that he's looking into getting a virtual assistant, and he's going to tune in here and he's going to listen to what you have to say about it.
yeah,
So I think there's a lead out here for you that you might get. So Raj, if you
yeah,
have any questions for Michelle, do put them in.
yeah.
But currently we're just discussing about Michelle's nursing career because she's also a practicing nurse. And are you still doing that during these times?
Yes, I went back. I did my revalidation in 2014, and then I've done agency nursing on and off just to make sure that I get all my hours in. And when this all
Agency nursing means, is that private nursing?
It's where it can be private, it can be NHS. It's wherever there's a shortage of nurses, the home or the hospital will go to an agency and say, have you got some nurses for me?
So it's something like a contracting kind of business.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've worked with the same agency. They're a great agency. I've worked with them for a while. And once COVID kicked in, a lot of our clients were unable to work.
Yeah.
So the gas engineers couldn't work, the electricians couldn't work, the decorators, they couldn't go into people's houses to do the work.
Yeah.
So our call volume, bearing in mind we probably do about 20,000 calls a month, dropped to 4,000 calls.
Wow.
So I knew I was going to have to furlough staff, and I knew that would hurt them, dropping to 80%. The other thing to bear in mind is on the 1st of April, there was an increase in minimum wage. So staff had an increase, not because they're on minimum wage, but I want to keep them above the minimum wage and not make the gap smaller.
Of course.
So they were all having an increase. But then with furlough, you can pay them what they were paid, the rate they were paid on the 28th of February. So it was 80% of the old pay.
Wow.
So that hurts.
I mean,
so
I'm sure.
Listen,
Did you have?
Into nursing,
Yep. Go ahead, carry on.
Yeah. So I said, if I go back into nursing, then I don't need to take a salary from the business. So I'll split my salary to make sure that you're on 100%.
Wow.
So I don't have to worry.
That's really commendable of you doing that, Michele. It's really great.
But it's also, it fits with my values, because they're in trouble. I need to help. But then I got COVID.
You got COVID.
Yeah. So I'd been in nursing. I went back in March.
Yep.
And by the end of April, I was down with COVID, and this coming tomorrow is my first shift back since the 23rd of March. 23rd of April.
And I wish you all the best for that. You're doing an amazing job. To all the NHS, to everyone who is, I want to say this on this live session. I've never said it to anyone on the live session, but it's not just this virus, but it's about looking after people's lives, it be someone going through cancer, someone going through any sort of medical issues, and all the doctors and all the nurses that are doing an amazing job throughout the world, not just NHS, but throughout the world, over the years that I've seen this in front. I really want to thank them for the job they're doing, and it's amazing. Had we not had doctors and nurses like yourself, this world would have been, I don't know what kind of place, but it's good. So, Michele, coming back now to the virtual assistant career that you're currently doing. You mentioned that in 2007, you went on and started this business.
Yeah. So
I know your friend mentioned to you that why don't you do virtual assistants and all that kind of stuff, and you read about it and you thought, okay, yep, this is the thing that I want to do, and I want to get on with helping people and their businesses.
Yeah, it's like, that's, at the time it was like, that seems like a good idea.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
And does it still seem like a good idea?
Absolutely. I had no idea where I get clients from.
Yeah.
Somebody said to me, start networking. I didn't even know what that was. So I started networking, and I started picking up clients, and I was like, oh, okay. Now I need to actually sort out what we're going to do for them.
So let's this is what I wanted to get on with, is what's the system you're using to assist people as a virtual assistant?
We do so many different things on here, because we've call handling was our basics. So people taking their calls, booking their appointments. So you get a gas engineer, we take the calls while he's working, we book the appointment straight in. If they've got a database of people that have a gas service every year, we call those people back. So, and say, hey, it's time for your gas service. So
Got you.
we call them back.
So you work with companies like British Gas or
No, all the little independents, the
got you,
people that wouldn't afford to take on a secretary,
got you.
because the thing is, and this is why we have quite a high turnover of clients, because when we work with somebody, the goal is to build them up to a point where if they want to, they can take on a member of staff.
As their own
Yeah.
virtual personal assistant.
No, I've had people that they start with us working from home, and after 2 or 3 years, they've bought an office, they've hired staff, and we just hand over to the staff and off they go. We've seen some great companies build. Wow. There's one at the moment. I think she's £5 million business now.
Wow.
She started in her home, and we did all the calls. We did everything behind the scenes. And now she's got this fabulous business in the
question I have for you. Like, let's say I run a property a brokering company in London, based in Holland Park.
Yeah.
And I have a certain amount of clients that I work with, high end, low end, medium end, whatever, luxury properties, council flats, all that kind of stuff. If I were to give you my database of emails and phone numbers and all that kind of stuff, would you be able to contact them and see what they have on their books in terms of rentals, in terms of sales, if they are selling anything, if they are about to sell something, or they want to buy something, all that kind of stuff? So you have staff trained for any kind of business anywhere in the world?
Yeah. The only thing we don't do is cold sales calls. So if you said to me, I've just bought a database and I want you to phone these people, no, that we don't do that.
And if it's my own personal database that I've had?
Yeah, not a problem. Because
so if I have
know them.
So if I have 6,000 people on my database, and let's say I've not been in touch with them for like 2-3 years, for example.
Yeah, that's okay. We start that call because we start it and say, no, you've not heard from us for a bit. I'm just checking that we've got all the right data. Oh, have you got any properties at the moment that are coming up for sale? We just go into the conversation.
Wow.
So
you're making me smile ear to ear right now. So Raj, I hope you're listening on this. Michele can sort out all your virtual. I mean, I think now let's talk about what sort of packages you do and how does that work?
Because we're fairly small, so you do get the big companies out there. I won't mention them, but where they're turning over 5 million profit. But anything that needs to be changed there is like there's a whole massive process. With us, we can look at something and say, yeah, okay, we can change that. We'll make that package for you. This will work for you. And the only thing that I say, and people that know me know that humor is important to me.
Of course. So, and I can see that in you, Michele.
So when we sign people up, our sign-up link, it actually shows all the different packages that we have for telephone packages, for the web chats, the live web chat packages. So there's all the different things that we offer. But the last one always says, don't have a clue, let's work it out at the end of the month. And that's because the reason we do that is you don't know how many calls you're going to have.
Just a quick question. Just a quick question Raj has here. He's got clients all the way as far as Australia. Do you have 24-hour support?
No. We don't do 24-hour support.
Okay.
We actually work UK time, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday to Friday, 9 till 1 on a Saturday. If I do have the connections, somebody wanted it to go past that, I have connections in the Philippines, but these are not my staff. They don't, I can train them. And I have trained for one of the property guys. I've trained a number of Filipino virtual assistants, and we've set them up. There's one thing that you have to be so careful about if you are going outside the UK and letting them have your data is obviously GDPR. And we've got, my IT guy has got that all set up so the data does not go out of the country. It stays put, so we are protected on that. But the issue that you will have with us, we charge only when the calls come in. So once we go across to the Philippines, they charge by the hour, whether or not you have a call.
Oh.
So they work very differently. It is quite low cost. However, you will pay to have that VA there, say from 6 p.m. at night UK time through to 8 a.m. in the morning. So you are going to pay for 14 hours solid, whether or not you have a call.
And what's that cost?
Now, it depends. It's by the time you've put in all the things that you really should have in place to protect yourself, you are probably looking at around 80 to 90 pounds a day.
And that is separate to what you're offering from the UK between 8 and 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right,
8 and
fine.
6.
Gotcha.
So between
8 and
8
6.
and 6, if you have calls with us between 8 and 6, if for example they're on a call handling package, there'd be £1.10 a call. So if you had say just 2 calls today, one was at 8 a.m. and one was at 5 to 6, you'll pay £2.20. But you've had us available for the entire day in case anybody else called.
And that £1.10 that you charge, let's say the call goes on for maybe 15 minutes, that charge still remains the same?
There is, we know what the average length of a call is, and we will get some calls that are silly times, and as long as the average works out, you're basically looking at the call. Should the average call length is about 90 seconds, and people say, oh, you can't do anything in 90 seconds, you would be amazed. We can actually get all the data that somebody requires in less than 60 seconds.
You're joking.
No. The thing is that when we're doing it for ourselves, when we pick up the phones for our own business, it's chatter, chatter, chatter. But when it's a call for something that it's a case of we need to get the information, we can still do it with love and warmth, but quickly. And we do a lot of outgoing calls as well. So if, for example, you were talking about us
calling landlords, vendors,
properties for sale.
Exactly.
Yeah. So say we've called one and they say, yeah, and you get in touch with them and they're waiting on a contract coming from you. And they're really keen to move ahead and they're waiting on a contract. So we take a call from landlord who said, I still haven't had this contract. So then we send that across to you and you go, oh, if I phone him, that's another hour of my life I will never see again.
Yeah.
So all you do is you send us a message back and say, give him a call back and tell him it's in the post now. So we just phone back and say, Mr. Landlord, it's Michelle from VTH Properties. Your paperwork in the post now. You'll have it in the morning. Job done. That's an hour of your life saved.
That is absolutely amazing. Yeah. And this is where, I mean, I want to take, we were talking about packages and I'm going to come back to it quickly, but we've got a comment here by Raj Mandhir, and he mentions, I run a Malaysia-based offshoring business. I'd recommend keeping telephone communication in the UK. All other communication methods can effectively be delivered offshore.
Yeah. It's interesting that and we will work with, if we're working with clients that have got VAs all over, I've got a number of clients who have VAs in the Philippines and based in India, and it's like, but they will always use us
Yep.
for the call handling. But it's when it's getting that flow of the call,
Of course.
and it must be very difficult for people where it's not your natural language, because I know working with the Filipinos, I mean, I'll speak to them and they have great English, and then they'll just go back into their own language, and it's just like,
I don't want to, I don't want to put them down, but I have issues, you know, because I use my website one and one,
yeah,
and their whole calling center is based in the Philippines. 24-hour support,
yeah.
24-hour support, but it's based in the Philippines. And when you call them, Michelle, I'm like, I'm pulling my hair off.
Well, one of the things that we had when I was training up some, and they were, in fairness, these ladies are doing calls for a client of ours. We do one set of calls, they do a different set of calls, and it's surrounded in, it is involved in property, and I had to explain what a radiator was because they had no idea. So I'm on a Zoom call getting a picture of a radiator, and I kid you not, this wonderful lady, and she's very intelligent, she said, I saw one of those on a movie once. And I'm like, this is where our problems are going to start, because let's face it, if you've got people that are calling in about one of your properties, the radiator's not hot. What's a radiator?
Of course.
The ovens was another thing. The number of people that call in about halogen ovens and things like that, she had no idea. So there is
Well, this is what the issue that
train.
this is the issue that we're sort of, I'm also on the same point, and Raj is also on the same point, sort of thing, where good English is key for businesses like ours, where we're dealing with multi-million-pound properties, you know, in London, and we can't have people in the Philippines answering calls for properties in the UK, where they might not have the right idea, possibly the great English and all that kind of stuff, to sort of answer to that particular person's query. So my question is, if virtual assistant is becoming the new normal, wouldn't you be yeah, sorry.
I was going to say, I cannot believe how many inquiries we have had in the last 2 weeks.
This is my whole point. Now, if virtual assistance is becoming the new normal, then why are you still going out to the Philippines and hiring people there rather than how?
I'm not.
No, for the 24-hour calling.
Right.
Why don't you take on people here to have the 6 to 8 on board?
The call volume, people believe that the call volumes are there, and we have actually proven that the call volumes are very, very low. So to be able to do the same thing as we're doing throughout the day, because during the day we charge by the call. If I was to do that at night, and I need to put 2 staff on, so for me to have 2 staff on, just as a flat rate, I am going to be looking at just £300 a night. That's my cost.
Wow.
So I need, therefore, to have a lot of calls to cover that. That's to cover the 14 hours. I'm going to need a lot of calls to cover that. And the only way of doing it would be to put very high prices in for night cover, which
but then if there is a demand for that, then There is
We're
no
not
demand.
seeing we're not seeing that level of demand. We tend to run quite differently because most companies that do call handling, you'll have to give them a script. I will not touch a script with a barge pole. So my staff are not allowed to use a script. The nearest thing we get to a script is every call that's answered, it will be, good morning, BTH Properties, how can I help you? Or good afternoon, BTH Properties, how can I help you? That's the only bit that stays the same on every single call. Once you put a script into place, so then people may turn around and say, oh, can you tell me if I'd like to speak to Mr. Smith. Can I take your name? Can I take your number? There's nothing there personal. With us, if they come on and say, I wish to speak to Mr. Smith. Yes, sir. He's not available. How can I help you? But then you'll get the other side, and we find this so much in property. You get the other side to it where somebody will phone up and say, hello, love. Is John there? And it's like, I'm sorry, darling. No, it's not. You've got to be able to switch.
Of course.
Because otherwise it's not personal.
Of course. Of course.
And we're representing your business.
Indeed.
We have to be personal.
I get that. Coming back to packages, and I want to wrap this up out here.
Yeah.
Coming back to packages, you mentioned that you have. Can we go through that again? If you can.
Yeah. So we do lots of different options, and if you like, a link into the notes here, into the chat. Of course. When we finish.
Of course.
Because
actually, you might want to do it right now, because once we finish with this chat, then the comments will sort of go off.
Okay. Well, let me put. Now you're testing me.
Sorry. There's a comment section at the bottom.
Yeah. I'm just going to put the website on there, because on the website, if you go to the bottom of the page, you'll see sign up now. Don't worry, press the sign up now. It will give you everything that we do, all our terms and conditions. Just if you don't want to, all the prices, everything are on there. And if you don't want to sign up, you don't need to.
Okay, super.
Everything is there.
This is what we have, Raj. This is the website. Go on there. Yeah. Call up Michele if you need to. But it's been an amazing conversation that I've had about how virtual assistance is sort of taking over the world gradually.
We're seeing so many now. So many.
Just a quick question. Okay. The increase in business since 2020 started. So we had January, February, and then March is when the COVID sort of lockdown, sort of all that kicked in. Yeah. Although COVID was there, but the lockdown kicked in March.
Yeah.
The number of inquiries in January and February compared to the number of inquiries in March and April, did they double?
January, February, March were our best months. Even March was the best March in 13 years.
Wow.
January was the best one in 13 years, and February the best one in 13 years. April, we effectively dropped back to sales of 2015. It was like, ouch, that hurts. And we had no inquiries in April.
Wow.
In May, it was like, this still isn't good. Where's this going? And then it was almost like the 1st of June hit. And I had somebody asked for a virtual assistant on Facebook, and I had all these people tagging me. My phone's going crazy. And it was specifically for call handling. And as one kicked in, then somebody else said, and I need one too, and I need one too. So I'm still tying up the loose ends on all of those.
So quick question here. If I were to jump on board with you right now, would you take me on? And when would you be able to start the works?
This afternoon? we could have you up and running for tomorrow morning.
Wow.
So
That quick.
the only thing that takes a little bit more time is because we do the live web chat as well.
Yep.
But we don't use any robots. That again is all human beings.
Wow.
And with that it's great, because if we don't get the information for you, you don't pay anything. So that is a fixed price. That's £1.50.
And how does that pay work? Do I pay you at the end of the month, or do I pay you weekly, or do I pay you how?
We invoice at the end. We invoice everything at the end of the month.
Okay.
Everybody pays us on direct debit.
Okay.
And we just invoice at the end of the month. So you see a whole list of all the calls that we've taken, any admin work we've done, and we do we also do all the live web chats. Any web chats that have converted, you get those, and they're all listed on there.
So you give, do you give like a daily, sorry, excuse me, do you give like a daily report of what's going on, or do you give like a weekly report or a monthly report?
No, we do the invoices, everything.
Okay.
So that tells you everything. Each day, if we take a call for you, you get that there and then. If we do a live web chat for you, you get that there and then as it happens.
Gotcha.
So that helps you to keep up.
Just a quick question about live web chat, web chat, because I use it on my website. Now, one thing is when someone says hello to you and you go out and speak to them about whatever their inquiries are. One is the fact that that person comes on your website but has not yet said hello. He's just going through the website. Do your staff also go out and say hello to that person?
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, because
so anyone that goes onto the website, like right now, you will go out and say, hello, hi, how are you? How can I help you? That's it.
It'll depend on the company that we're doing the work for. So we've got it on the site of one of the gas engineers. Okay. He covers the West Midlands.
Yep.
So when I see somebody coming on from Scotland, I might not be too interested in promoting the chat, because the beauty is you can actually see.
But that's
where
a gas guy.
In the country.
Yeah.
You can see how they got to you.
Of course. Of course.
So you can see which pages they're going on. So take an IT guy.
Yeah.
You know, you can go on there and say, oh, are you looking for some support today? Because they're on the support page. So if they're on a page of yours where you're looking about taking landlords on, then it's like, oh, are you a landlord? You know, would love to talk to you.
Got you. Okay. So depending on what page they are on, you would base your inquiry according to that page.
Absolutely, yes.
Got you. All right, fine. I think I've possibly covered everything on here, but you've got a call with Raj. He's going to call you after this live.
I know.
So do look after him.
Raj,
and I'm
do you have my number?
I'm sure he's got it from your website. And I'm going to call you as well about this, because I really like the fact of how you are possibly putting everything in that package and presenting it. So Michele, before we wrap up, I do this with all my guests that come on board. For you to share some positive advice with the people that are going through a lot of negativity right now. The fact that we're in lockdown, we can't meet family, we can't meet friends, you know, all that kind of stuff. People losing their jobs, people on furloughs, businesses going bust. Any sort of positive advice that you would like to share with the world right now?
Make sure you connect with people, talk to people, understand it's okay not to be okay. We have all had wobbles.
Absolutely.
I've had wobbles. It's okay. When I was at my lowest and my oxygen levels plummeted, and it was like, do I dial 999, or do I just give it another hour and see if I can get them back up by doing breathing exercises?
What did you do?
I did the breathing exercises. I was worried about leaving my dog because my dog would have been on her own. So but I realised it's because I got so upset and I'd actually started to cry. My oxygen levels, I watched them dropping because
Wow.
I was measuring them as a nurse. I was measuring them. I got my pulse oximeter. And I said to my friends the next day, if you can't make me laugh, don't bother phoning me. Because I can't deal with it right now.
But it would be
I need
really hard to
to
make you laugh. You've got a super sense of humor. I mean, you know, the conversation that I've had, it's been absolutely amazing. So, Michelle, thank you so much for coming on here.
You're
I know
welcome.
we started late and everything, but it's been great chatting to you. Great getting all that knowledge on why virtual assistance is going to be the new normal in the coming days, rather than hiring a perfect, sexy looking personal assistant. You
Hey,
know,
I've got a team of them. They're wonderful. But if anybody needs any advice on choosing a virtual assistant, I'm more than happy to help. And it doesn't matter if it's not me that they're going to choose, because there are some key things that people do need to look out for. And if they haven't got those in place, there are a lot of people that are coming into the industry right now,
okay.
which I'm sure you see in property, where you're looking at them thinking they really shouldn't be doing this. They
Yep.
haven't got the knowledge.
Yep.
And you know it's going to crash and burn. There
Absolutely.
are some excellent people out there that I would absolutely recommend, because they're phenomenal. But it's making sure that the person that is picking the virtual assistant knows what they're looking for.
Absolutely.
And if they get it wrong, we get all sorts of horror stories, exactly the same as in property.
And I'm sure you can take us, whoever wants your services, you can take them through all
Yeah.
the works that you go through, the process and everything, and on how you can start. So as you mentioned, and all the people on here, like when I asked Michelle that how soon can she start working on my case, she mentioned tomorrow morning it can
Yeah.
be up and ready. So that's how quick Michelle can get you on board. So thank you so much, Michelle, for
You're welcome.
turning up here, spreading
We
all
got
that
there.
knowledge. Absolutely, absolutely. And it's been an absolutely eye-opening, mind-opening as to why virtual assistance is going to become the new normal. And I see it going that way with all this stuff that's happening around us, with employees sitting at home, personal assistants sitting at home, doing it all from home. And the demand is just increasing. Like you mentioned, your inquiries are increasing. So I can see that happening. So thank you so much once again. Have a great day, what you're doing. I'll be giving you a call shortly once I've gone through all my calls and made my bookings and everything, viewings
Yeah.
and all that. And we'll be talking soon. Thank you so much,
Okay.
Michelle.
Take care. God
Take
bless.
care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 So, wow. All I can say is wow. I mean, why is a virtual assistant necessary in today's day and age? Check out this live session. Thank you so much, Michelle, for turning on and sharing some amazing pieces of knowledge. Thank you to all the viewers that tuned in and heard what Michelle had to say as to why a virtual assistant is the new normal. It's absolutely amazing. Thank you so much to everyone. Have a great day. Look, 6 p.m. today, I've got a dentist on board who is going to be talking about teeth and gums. You don't want to miss it. I don't want to miss it. I want to talk. I want to learn so much about it. So take care. See you soon. Bye bye.